Hello and welcome to day 2 of ADHD Awareness Month. I'm Stephanie Camilleri from Empower ADHD and Ascend ADHD, and we have Rachel also from Empower ADHD. And today we are very honored to have Professor Charlotte Valeur to speak to us. We're going to have a discussion around this really important topic, missed and misunderstood ADHD in women. So thank you for joining us. And Professor, it'd be lovely to hear. How did you, so you created the Institute of Neurodiversity. Love to hear your story behind it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that started really 5 years ago. So by then I had been diagnosed as autistic and having ADHD some years later. So I, in my 50s, kind of had to go through my life and look at that with a different lens. I felt that there wasn't any real support and help for adult neurodivergent people. It was like, once you have passed the child stage, we disappear and become invisible. And it's really important, I think, that we shed some light on that actually our neurotype doesn't change just because we grow up. But what happens is we become better at masking and fitting in ways that are actually for mental health not that helpful for us. Yeah. So that was the reason we are aiming to be, we have a 2030 strategy of being in 100 countries with 1 million members. We some of the way we're working in 40 countries. We have members from 100 countries, and it's about just over 35,000 people so far.
Huge movement. That's well done.
Absolutely. No, it's fantastic. It's when everyone kind of comes together, when everyone's talking about everything more, when there is that drive behind it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. So yeah, obviously the theme for this year, obviously, was the many faces of ADHD. Yesterday we talked about this, we introduced this. If you did want to go watch that, it's on the LinkedIn page. Very good. But yeah, obviously ADHD appears in so many different ways. And a lot of the time for women, it can get often missed. We're misunderstood, hence the title. So yeah, obviously, it can be missed quite a lot. Stephanie, why?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm not sure how it was for you, but with me, well, firstly, there was not that awareness generally. And there's that idea with ADHD and the assessment process very much caters to that hyperactive, naughty boy in the classroom, the one that's very noisy, making trouble. Whereas there are a lot of girls with ADHD were getting missed because not only maybe were they just the inattentive types and more the kind of daydreaming type, but like you were saying, Rachel, that pressure on girls, from an early age, the societal conventions to be a bit more quiet, to mask, to, regulate yourself. Yeah. I'd love to know hear your thoughts around that.
So, I mean, I'm born in 64, right? So I grew up in the 60s and 70s where nobody knew anything about neurodiversity, or a very small number of people knew about ADHD, autism, or even Tourette or dyslexia. Like dyslexia was not even, I remember children I went to school with who were clearly dyslexic. And today, when I'm still in touch with them, they're so clearly so. But those days, they were just being deemed to be not very bright. And I was also one of the ones. I was very quiet, quite withdrawn. I didn't move. I wasn't hyperactive in that way. I probably became that later on, and my work sort of helped me, with that aspect of my neurotypes. But all I got told in school was that I was unconcentrated throughout. It's written down on every single grade paper I got. Charlotte is unconcentrated. And then they tried to put me in a separate class with one of the other children that were dyslexic, and then everybody deemed us to be dumb because we were in a class, 2 people with 1 teacher. So that kind of stuck with me for the 9 years I went to school. Whilst I quietly, as a 12-year-old, was reading Winston Churchill's self-biography and John Steinbeck books, and that were well beyond sort of my age. But of course, nobody knew because I didn't tell anyone, and nobody really cared because I was one of the dumb ones anyway.
Yeah, it's awful, isn't it? That narrative forms so early, doesn't it? Because that,
with your peers, with the teachers, it just exudes through everything, and you feel it as a child. I was very aware that I was different. I felt different. I was on my own in the playground. I didn't interact with other children. very easily. And I was quite happy in my own world. It was okay for me. I wasn't thinking, oh, I want to be part of a big, I didn't want to be part. It was hassle. It was more hassle than I could handle. If I wanted to be in the group of the popular girls, I would rather not be that.
So in terms of that, it's really difficult though, isn't it? Because obviously, you're enjoying your own company, a lot of, women with ADHD and particularly autism as well. However, again, in the playground when you're younger, it's going to be difficult. It's, in terms of you are visibly not with other people. And how did you sometimes kind of try to, how did you deal with that?
I didn't really. I think what happened was that I sort of became the queen of the underdogs. So the people that got pushed out, I was very happy to sort of take them in, if you want, and say, well, we can be together. And one girlfriend that I've now had my whole life, we're still, seeing each other. She was part of the sort of popular girls, and then they chucked her out because this happens, right? This happened back in the day as well. She was very upset. I said, you can be with me. And I sort of looked after her. Then she went back to them and left me behind.
Oh, no.
Really, again, I don't really recall that I cared so much. And so then she was there for a little while. Then they chucked her out again, and she realized that was not a safe place to be. And then she came, and we were friends ever since. And today we're like sisters because we've known each other since we were 9 years old. So this is very early days. And the same for college or sort of A-level, which was a separate school. I just did my own thing quite happily. I had a boyfriend very early at 15, from 15 to 18, and him and me spent time together. And I never had a bunch of girls around me. I see my daughter have always a group of girls around her, and it's very important to her. I've never had that experience or feeling that it was important. So maybe I didn't react to the other girls in the same way, like, oh, let's be together, or I really want to do this. I never really did that, and I still don't. So in a sense, if I try to be a friend, maybe I would be seen as a slightly flaky friend in the traditional friends way, right?
Yeah.
Because I need my space, I need my headspace, and I always needed that. And if I got too much of people around me, I just needed to pull away. That was important for me to re-regulate my system.
That is the hard part, though, isn't it? When you've got ADHD, particularly if there's other conditions, there is a need to be able to create space to refuel, right? And that definitely, in terms of that misunderstanding, particularly if you're a parent, if you're a mother, with kids with ADHD, that need for space becomes even greater. But then that perception, you're neglecting your children, or you're a bad mother.
And as an ADHD mother and autistic mother as well, I obviously was I was quite keen on ensuring that they had their own headspace when they needed it, which might have led to sometimes me not, coming in enough. It's this fine balance. What is good for one child is not good for another child. And two of my children, they say, oh, you're not leaning in enough. I said, okay, well, I can lean in more for sure if you are sure you want me to do that. And then the reaction I got to it when I went, and it was not a hard lean in, it was a gentle pressure. When they were sort of 18, 19, it was like, yeah, that makes me so angry. Can we stop doing that? Okay, now you know what it feels like. But I always sort of trained them to make their own decisions. Or sort of,
I think we...
Hang on.
So at 12, you'll wash your own clothes. And I remember my daughter said, I tell your mom, none of my other friends are washing their own clothes. I said, oh, so you're ahead of the game. Isn't that great? She's like, no, actually. But then she went to university and she was like, wow, she found everything easy. I told her to cook, to clean, to wash her clothes. It was not a struggle, but the people she lived with had a struggle with it, right?
Yeah, that was some good foresight there, because so many times with university, the neurodivergent students fail because they can't do those things. That's not kind of anticipated that it'll be a problem. So that's fantastic. You're able to set her up to succeed. But I know what you mean, though. It's difficult they say the kids ask of you to do things, then you do them, and then you get that kind of reception. Well, I tried, you can't win, right? But it's good kind of checking in with the young ones. But definitely, yeah, well done for setting your children up to succeed there.
I think it worked. So that was good. I think it worked.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely. Obviously, kind of looking into, leadership and your experience with leadership, obviously how was that like for you? How was that affected? And obviously what kind of led you to create ION, which is fantastic.
I mean, so I was never that interested in leading people. So I became a stock exchange trader when I was about 22. And then I was in investment banking since then. And that is very much a group of really driven, self-focused people. And many of them possibly also having ADHD. So that environment really, really worked for me. There are some studies that says that the percentages of neurodivergent people in the finance industry is quite high. And it just worked. I mean, yes, we were 300 people in a room and we were 2 women, but I didn't really notice that because my way of being, and I think that's also because of my neurotypes, right, was sort of slightly towards the male side in a way, because I was very direct, I was very focused, I wasn't really enjoying talking about the typical female things to talk about. It's, makeup or hair was just not for me so much, and that kind of worked in that environment because that was not what we talked about. We talked about market economics, all the things that I enjoyed and that I had my special interest in, which is super helpful. That changed obviously when I then had children, but at 35, and then you're suddenly at the school gate, you have all the other mothers, and I kind of struggled with that, and I think the other mothers struggled with me sometimes because I'm just different, and it's nothing I can do about it, but they can feel it, I can feel it, and there is this sort of awkward sort of distance and not the same things we talk about. And by then I had been a professional for almost 20 years, so yeah, there was a mix of the neurotypes and then just me. It was okay. I mean, there was lots of lovely, really lovely mothers. I had 3 different schools, and each school had very different kind of parents as well, and how they looked at things. So
it's a really hard transition. I remember, doing that as well. I come from banking background too, and law. And for our ADHD brain, that authentic interest, that stimulation, that sense of achievement, opposite of rejection sensitive dysphoria is recognition, responsive euphoria. So, in that type of work, there's lots of immediate rewards, when you're doing
right. Yeah.
And then you become a mom and
it's gone.
You can't do anything, right? It's so hard.
Yeah, I struggled. I was at home with children, the first 2 children, for 3 years. And it was very hard. I started doing a degree in psychology because my brain had got to have some stimulus. I couldn't just go all day. As much as I loved my children, I couldn't. It was not enough for my mind. I did meet a lot of other women who equally had been professionals and then mothers, sort of 30, 35-year-olds. They were all struggling because you can't just stop and not think and not like challenges, right? So so I went back and started my own company after 3 years, and done that since.
Oh, bless it. I wanted to ask, I'm kind of quite curious. Obviously, you've lived in a few places. Was there a difference was there anything that you noticed, kind of maybe somewhere more accepting, somewhere less accepting, and how did that impact you?
Definitely, I think so. I read somewhere that Denmark is the best country in the world to be autistic in, because there's an easygoing way of being and it's more community-based, and there's sort of space for everybody. So although I felt different, even in my own family with my 3 siblings, I felt different to them, and they felt I was different too. So when I called them and said, when I was 50, I think I'm autistic, they just went, yeah, that fits, right? They were not surprised. They were not trying to say that's nonsense. No, right? And we have lots of autism and ADHD in the family all around. But I think what happened there was in Denmark, I was just fell into this investment banking where everybody was just no judgment, really. We're just there working hard, playing hard, you know, a bit like Wolf of Wall Street through the 80s and 90s. It was quite crazy, but very, very funny, right? And I was just one of the guys. So you have to be like one of the guys in that kind of situation. And then I moved to the UK, and that was really, really different. The British culture is quite different to the Danish one. I thought it was similar, but it really, really isn't in terms of directness, transparency. You know, so in Denmark, everybody knows what everybody's paid. We know what we pay in tax. We know what value our houses. All of that is just open and openly talked about. So when I went to some colleagues in the UK and asked, so what are you paid? They were like, are you crazy? Why would I ever tell you that? That's between me. And I was like, well, how will I know what to ask for if I don't know what everyone else is paid, right? And they're like, yeah, we're not talking to you about that. I was like, okay. So I learned it sort of the hard way. So it was a mix between a different culture, but then for me as a different neurotype, that was incredibly helpful because in the UK, I'm a foreigner, right? So I still have my accent. I haven't tried to get rid of it after 35 years because actually it helps people not put me in a box. So they hear the accent and they don't put, you're supposed to behave like that. So when I'm too direct or too honest or whatever I am sometimes, often, most of the time, I go, oh, this is what we do in Denmark. And they're like, yeah, of course it is. Nobody knows, right? But it's a small country. But so that's helpful to be a foreigner in a country because you don't get boxed in. I feel more boxed in Denmark than I do outside of Denmark because there's a way of being Danish and I'm supposed to be that way and I'm also not that way, right?
Yeah. And I think as well, there's a lot of obviously pressure on women to be a certain way. There's a lot of expectation, you know, there's a lot of, you're a woman, so you behave like this. And for someone with ADHD, when you've already got RSC, you're already affected by something, the shame that comes from that when you are trying so hard to fit in, something doesn't necessarily work.
No.
It makes it 10 times worse, you know.
And then I'm Jersey, of course, which is a really small country, 100,000 people on a cliff, effectively, right? And they have a very high degree of what is termed managed intimacy, where you manage what you say and what you do and how you present, and everything is very managed. And if you don't, and this is something that's a book written about that for smaller countries around the world, this is all the same kind of managed intimacy, and I'm not good with that, right? I'm not. I will say the things I shouldn't say. I will blurb out stuff. I will do things that I shouldn't be doing. I wouldn't. It's also a bit more traditional with the male-female sort of models, and I don't fit into that. Not only because I'm neurotype, but also because I'm Danish. So it was a difficult. It was a difficult fit for me. I stayed there for 17 years, nevertheless, because I needed my children to grow up and move themselves before I could leave. But then I left as soon as I could, because it was very clear. Yes. My middle name apparently was Trouble in Jersey.
Oh no! Yeah, I was going to ask you what impact did that have?
Yeah, I got isolated. I got pretty isolated. Then I divorced my children's father, unfortunately, and then you've got the next level of isolation because you're a single person that might be up to steal someone else's. I don't know what it was, but the isolation was very real.
And that's, I think it's a big thing with women. Obviously, we're expected to take on more. It's always kind of your responsibility. You know, you look after the kids, you have this guilt, and you put up and deal with it. Naturally, our tolerance is higher, so we are likely to tolerate more things. It's always be tough, you know, be a mother. You know, women protect yourselves, not other people stop harming women. It's you must do this to protect yourself. Exactly. And so
victim blame.
So we're taught to put up. And so when we have, you know, when we have something about us that's slightly different, we're likely to
so much worse.
Because we're expected to put up with it as women in particular.
And in small societies with this high level of managed intimacy as well, it can be very, very difficult to work with. Where the UK, as a, the big island, is much more accommodating for me, because you've got 70 million people here, so they can't easily just give me a label. When Jersey, they could give me a label, which was trouble. Separate people have told me that that's what they say about me. So it's and with no definition of what trouble means.
I was going to ask you, what did they mean by trouble?
I think it's so I have quite a strong moral compass. Wrong is really important to me, and I speak up against that. And so when my children who are mixed race children have all experienced racial discrimination, more so in Jersey than anywhere else. It just is what it is. But that is what you can get from smaller places, and then you can't get away from it. Where in the UK, if you walk around in London and someone shouts something at you, then that person next minute is gone, and you might never see them again in the next 50 years, right? In Jersey, however, someone does something, you will meet them every single time you walk down the street in the central city. I mean, it's just impossible to. And that's why they have to have the managed intimacy, because in small places, you are an integrated part of each other's lives, privately, professionally, when you go for a walk, when you everywhere, there's no escaping it. So you have to, and it's something I can feel.
The anxiety must have been absolutely to the roof for you at that time. The anxiety around,
So you just have to hold it together and just put my head down and deal with what I need to deal with for my children.
That's exactly what we're talking about, isn't it? That's what women do. That's what we women do.
And I had no family around, no support, nothing. So it was kind of, it was interesting. I mean, but once you get through these difficult patches, you're stronger. You can look back and say, well, I could do that as well. And
I think
despite everything, right?
Yeah. We have to reframe, though, isn't it? It's like you said, we can tolerate a lot. I guess we can. Exactly. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Why should we?
Yeah, exactly. And it's also that thing of when a woman says something and when a woman stands up or speaks her mind, because we're more used to seeing men be loud. Yeah. We're more kind of accommodated to that. As when a woman's loud and goes, it's almost as a society, it's almost
we're crazy, or it's that whole she's lost control.
Yeah, trouble. Yeah. So it will come with labels, definitely. And then when you're naturally different as well through your neurotype, of course, that just adds to that whole equation. It is what it is. It's just how the world is put together. But we could work to have a kinder world, right? And I'm part of lots of things that's trying to drive kindness. It's not difficult to be kind, right? And kind to other people and lift and empower other people and have the mindset that what's good for others is good for me, as opposed to the mindset what's good for me is good for others, right?
What you said there about kindness as well, in terms of the misunderstood element, I coach a lot of women with ADHD and autism together. And when we do their signature strengths, they've got kindness right up there. And yet, if you speak to some people that have maybe interacted with them or workplace, and someone would not see that, because, maybe the workplace, they come across very, direct.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they're little in particular, they can be seen as maybe like a little bit unkind because of maybe their reactions or meltdowns, but actually it's because they care, that they are the kindest people. It's just the situations don't bring out sometimes. Yeah. And that's that misunderstanding, because that, from what I've seen, for those girls and women, that hurts so badly to be misunderstood when actually they've got the best intentions and would do anything to help.
Right. Yeah. And to help. And I think those between neurotypes, there is a high level of misunderstanding. It's like we talk past each other, just can do when you're from two different cultures. And I think we should have, alongside culture training, we should have neurotype training, so that we give everybody this training in what does it mean to be in a neurodiverse society, which we are all in. It's like we are. Every society, every classroom, every workplace is neurodiverse. They have different neurotypes everywhere, and this idea that we are somewhere separate from everyone else is just not. Is clearly just not correct. But there's too many of us that are still unseen, But with the world trying to cure us and all kind of things, it's kind of more safe to be unseen, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's obviously, there has been so much change and there has been so much great work done, but ultimately we do still need more understanding. Yeah. When we really understand people within society, within schools, within the workplace, yeah. You know, ultimately it's around 5% is estimated of the global population that are ADHD. And so it's 40 million people, yeah, feeling misunderstood.
Yeah.
It's not
wide across all the neurotypes. In Britain, there's a couple of research studies that shows that more than 50% identify as neurodivergent now. Yeah. So all of the minorities together is probably a majority. And it's interesting because the majority, or typicals or whatever we call it, don't identify as that. Obviously, they're just like happily unaware that there's someone that's different to them, and if we are different, they're happy to then exclude us. Kind of, it's kind of, but it shouldn't be them and us. But that's kind of what it feels like from this side of the pond.
Yeah, it's really, and it's why obviously awareness and conversation. We need to bring it in to as many places as possible to reduce that pressure that's on us, and in particularly on us as women. And yeah. It's why, obviously ADHD Awareness Month, why the work that we do, why the work that you do at ION, and it's why that is so important.
Yeah.
It's
not stop. Yeah, we need to continue. Sometimes we've done enough. We've worked on gender equality for 125 years, 135 years. And you're thinking, surely we're getting there, but we're actually still not, right? So we just have to continue. Equality is not easy to live in, but it is what we should all aim for.
Absolutely, absolutely. When we shine the light on everyone's experience, on educating, on supporting and understanding each other, those conversations is what is going to bring about the change we need. It's fantastic.
And just finally, it'd be great, any advice that, given your experiences and what you've seen, any advice for women with ADHD that, are frequently misunderstood?
I think that my advice would be try to focus on the strengths it gives you, on the abilities it gives you. And I've been lucky enough to be able to do that in my career the last 44 years. But it has to be you have to do that purposefully. You have to try to really look at, where would I like to be? What is it I would like to contribute to society? And then focus on the things that, don't try to do things you don't want to do, right? Because it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Certain things we have to do, but generally find your passion, follow it, use your strengths, and then take that self-care. You must take care of yourself before you take care of others. Because once you've done that, you can take care of others so much better.
Fantastic advice. Thank you.
No, genuinely, thank you so much. Obviously, it's been
my pleasure.
So great. Every single conversation that we have, I genuinely take something new away, which is fabulous. So anyone that we can hopefully impact today, whenever someone's watching this, it makes a huge difference. And it's why we need this conversation. It's why we do ADHD Awareness Month. It's why all of us do what we do, so that we can hopefully impact as many people as possible. So genuinely, thank you so much for today, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. I know that we will be back live tomorrow.
Yes, we will.
Back live tomorrow.
And talking about ADHD and autism and other neurodiverse conditions co-occurring. So do join us for tomorrow as well at 1 o'clock. But thank you again, and speak to you soon.
I'm going to let this run out.
Ending the stream.